Pat Corrigan, worked at Goddard from 1962 to 1998. I started out working as a tracking status system manager for the interfacing with Echo and Relay and ATS. And then I became the experiments manager on ATS 6. At ATS 6, ATS 1 and 3 had my first experiments with the VHF experiment, which would originally be put on there to communicate with aircraft to show the feasibility of communicating with aircraft all the way across the Atlantic and the Pacific. The first satellite, ATS-1, launched in 1966 and stationed at 150 degrees west longitude, covering all of the Pacific area. That experiment required from the ground just a television type antenna and a ham type radio to be able to communicate through a satellite which was 22,000 miles up in space. And this experiment, which eventually came to work with the South Pole, originally we worked with aircraft across the Pacific. After a while, we extended the satellite to used by the school area in the Pacific, where they could communicate from one location to all of the schools in the Pacific areas. So they was very well received, and they thought we were they thought that NASA was the greatest thing that they ever heard of. Similarly, in the Alaska, remember the satellite can be seen from the communication in all these locations, maybe not 24 hours a day, but at least 12 hours a day. And in Alaska, they were used by the medical people because in the outposts, they didn't have anybody but nurses, so that they were able to communicate through ATS-1 and talk to the doctors back at the home base and get directions into what was to be done. There were so many other uses of ATS-1 that it would take all day to talk about them, but finally got to where NASA Mike came to, and it was looking for a way to get data back from the South Pole, and that I had noticed that after a while, as the satellite would be, the inclination satellite would be changing and increasing, that eventually it would be able to be seen from the South Pole, and to set up the communications to do that. And again, it just required a television type antenna and a ham type radio set to do that. We communicated with 5 different aircraft in space at one time. We covered the geodetic survey people actually used it to put remote locations to measure snow and rainfall. They could turn on the monitors from home base through the satellite back to there, and could do that with 100 different locations if they ever wanted to. They never equipped that many to do it, but its capability was there because just need 5 minutes of data. So spend 5 minutes. The satellites were only a one-channel device. But when you only need 5 minutes to do it, and because it's available 24 hours a day, you can cover a lot of locations. It moved into an opal type experiment,